On today's show, a lot went down in Milwaukee against the Bucks. It was a tightly contested game. The Rockets were in this one the whole way, but they didn't have an answer for Damian Lillard. They also shot themselves in the foot a bunch this game. Ime Udoka and Dillon Brooks being ejected at the end of this one for disagreeing with the officiating crew. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
Throw it up to Jalen Green.
Sengun here in the short row. Oh my, that's the no look.
Jabari for three and the win. Yeah!
Look at Tari, Eason.
Here comes Tari.
No! T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
The Houston Rockets select Ime Thompson and Cam Whitmore.
One thing I have never done is not made the playoffs, and so we want to take that step here as well.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets, free and available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including YouTube. Now, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code Locked On NBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you for being an everydayer and making the show part of your day every single day. Joining us now to talk about this Houston Rockets 128-119 loss against the Milwaukee Bucks is none other than one of your weekly co-hosts, Madison Moore, NBA draft enthusiast you can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. And Madison, this one kind of stings because they were right there with the Bucks all game. You know, even when the Bucks would pull ahead, the Rockets had some responses. You know, the Bucks would pull ahead double digits, 11 point, 12 points, and the Rockets would kind of storm back into it, cut the lead to 5 or 6, and they were right there with the Bucks for this entire game. Just could not ever kind of, punch it through, climb the hill, whatever metaphor you want to use to come back and get back on top in this game. Tough loss, and let's kind of unpack here why the Rockets lost this game. Because I think it was very clearly two things. I think the offensive rebounding was ridiculous for Milwaukee. They walked out of this game with, first off, they completely decimated the Rockets on the boards, 46-31, so plus 15 in the rebound department. But it was the offensive rebounds that really killed the Rockets. The Bucks had 16 offensive rebounds to the tune of 22 second chance points. The Rockets' second chance points, they had 5, Madison. So plus 17 for the Bucks there. And then Damian Lillard, who the Rockets had no answer for, 39 points. He was on fire in this game. And I don't know if it's because they were putting too much focus on Giannis, but Dame had a field day in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Dame did what he always does against the Houston Rockets. It's sad to see. We just aren't at the stage where we have another offensive powerhouse player to match him these days. So, it's unfortunate to see Dame go off. But overall, I thought the Rockets did play well tonight. I thought they stuck in this game very, very how can I say, with determination, because there was a lot of points in this game where this game could have got out of hand for these young Rockets, and they stood in, and everybody contributed to staying into this game, especially with the offensive prowess of Damian Lillard, and as well as the physicality of Giannis, not just offensively going to the basket, but on the boards as well, right? So when we talk about why the young Rockets lost today, to me, it was our inability to get stops, but the process to me was still good. I thought the Rockets still contested well. They didn't give up a lot of open shots. I thought the Milwaukee Bucks just had very good counters and better shot makers, better superstars who make tough shots. And so, unfortunately for the Rockets, they just didn't have that type of to get them over the hill. And I honestly think they played an evenly matched game. the better team was just won. That's what happened. The better team won.
It's actually even so funny because I don't even know if I necessarily want to subscribe to that notion of the better team won, because you look across the board, at least from an efficiency perspective, the Rockets were the better offensive team in this game, in every statistical category. So here, we'll go down the board really quick. Overall shooting from the floor, Rockets shot 52.9% from the floor. Bucks shot 50%, so the Rockets had them beat there. 3-point shooting, the Rockets shot 40.7% from three. Bucks only shot 36.1% from three. Free throw shooting, Rockets shot 85.7%. Bucks shot 78.1%. And they had a slight edge in three-pointers made and free throws made in this game. Bucks made 13 threes, Rockets only made 11. Bucks made 25 free throws out of their 32. Rockets made 18 of their 21. But I really feel like it was just...
What about points in the paint?
Good.
Do you have those?
I do have that ready to go, right? Yeah. Points in the paint. They were evenly matched. 54 for Milwaukee, 52 for Houston. The edge really seriously was the second chance opportunities that Milwaukee got, because the Rockets, I felt like at times did a really good job of D'ing up. Like, you look kind of up and down, and I feel like they did a decent enough job defensively, right? They held Giannis 10 of 22 shooting from the floor. Chris Middleton only 7 of 15. Brook Lopez 6 of 13. Like, not, amazing nights for anybody other than really just Dame. In fact, again, I really thought that they did a great job on Giannis, especially in the second half, after kind of maybe not matching his physicality very well in the early going of this game. They did a much better job in the second half. They were electing to guard Giannis one-on-one for like the first 2.5, 3 quarters of this game. And then in the fourth quarter, they started blitzing him. They started sending a double at him, and they started daring kind of the other guys on the court to knock down a shot to beat them. And I feel like the defensive game plan kind of worked for everybody not named Dame. I just don't know if it's because if Dame had a field day because they were putting so much attention on Giannis, to where there were moments where Dame would, get a switch. Dame cooked pretty much everybody. He cooked each of the starters at least once in this game, basically, because Dame found himself at, on the positive end of a few different mismatches because they were so willing to swap things to keep their defensive scheme alive to shut down Giannis. It felt like.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Or let me rephrase. Sorry, not shut down Giannis. Slow down Giannis. You can't shut down Giannis.
No. I mean, I think Giannis still had a great game. But now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, there was a lot of shots that Dame also got just off the offensive tip, right? I think Andre Jackson was a menace, as well as Giannis on those boards. I mean, guys, I know we talk a lot about, Tari Eason's energy and activity. Man, Andre Jackson did a lot of what we see Tari Eason do to affect the game positively. I mean, that guy was all over the court with his hands and with those, keeping the ball alive on offensive tip outs. And I think that really hurt this young Rockets team. And it didn't allow us to quite get over the hump. And I also think the role players, I felt like we kept them in check for most of the game, but they always came up and hit timely shots when we were making runs. I feel like Bobby Portis in the third quarter hit some timely shots that I was like, why is Bobby Portis, keeping them afloat when Dame is out of the game and Giannis is out of the game? We had that the misassignment by Sengun with Brook Lopez with 1 second on the clock. I mean, I felt like there were a lot of plays like that where there was just timely shots that the role players just did enough to keep us at bay throughout the course of the game.
There were definitely a handful of just kind of, these small mistakes here and there that added up over the course of a game, where if you are, when your margin for error is, as thin as it is for this Rockets team, which they do have a thin margin for error, unfortunately. They're a good team, and they're very much still in a lot of these games, but you start stacking up these mistakes. One, you're already fighting a losing battle when you give up that many offensive rebounds. You're giving, the Bucks are way too good of an offensive team, more or less, basically, second best offense in the NBA right now, something like that. They are way too good of an offensive team to be giving second and third opportunities to offensively. And you look down the line, again, they had 16 offensive rebounds as a team. Giannis had 6 of them. Andre Jackson Jr. On his, Tari Eason energy had 4 offensive rebounds. Bobby Portis had 4 of them off the bench. There were just, and it really felt like some of those offensive rebounds were just Yeah, some of them were like, okay, bad bounce on a ball, right? Like it just kind of ends up in another Bucks player's hands or something. Missed, an air ball here or like a weird bounce there. But there were also moments where it was just like the Rockets just were getting outworked. Like the ones that Andre Jackson Jr. were getting, those offensive rebounds, those tip outs, that was just him crashing the glass and outworking the Rockets. And that is a bit of a concerning trend because this Rockets team has been a team that, as good as they played offensively, they should have been able to win this game. If they had only cut back on the offensive rebounds by like half, if they'd only given up 8 offensive rebounds instead of 16, I think we're talking about a Rockets win instead of a Rockets L in this game because they defended well enough and they had enough offense clicking in this game across the board. They had 7 players in double figures in this game. Both Tari, Eason, and Jeff Green off the bench, double figures, and then all 5 of the starters in double figures. Jabari had it going from the mid-range. Dillon Brooks was hitting some shots. Alp found his touch again in the paint. Fred VanVleet was hitting shots. Jalen was hitting shots. Like, everybody was kind of on offensively in this game, and then they still couldn't win because they just didn't do like one very critical thing, which was close out defensive possessions strong with the defensive rebound, unfortunately. Coming up, we want to unpack some more from this game. We're going to get into some of Ime Udoka's decision-making with the lineups in this game. Some very interesting lineup permutations in this one, as well as kind of dissecting some of the individual play from guys like Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, some of the stuff to do with the officiating in this game, which was kind of a mess. Ime Udoka and Dillon Brooks both getting tossed at the end of this game, ejected in the final 45 seconds, less than a minute to go, getting ejected. We're going to unpack all of that and so much more here in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is so simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. They've got quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types, which is what makes PrizePicks the #1 DFS app on the market. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half or does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only DFS platform with an injury insurance policy. So if you've been thinking about getting into daily fantasy sports, you've got to give PrizePicks a chance. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA or using code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Some exciting news as Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe for the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Let's continue we're going to unpack still this, the Rockets 128-119 loss against the Bucks. And I will say, Madison, one thing that I noticed in this game, before we anoint our collective Locked On Rockets player of the game, I felt like Giannis maybe took it personally the last time these two teams played against each other, in December of last year, that game where the Rockets won in Houston, in Toyota Center. And Jabari really helped, but that was one of Jabari's best games from his rookie season, was the defensive performance he had against Giannis. And I kind of felt like every time Giannis and Jabari were matched up in this game, which that was Jabari's assignment, Giannis bulldozed his way to the rim every single time in the Jabari matchup. It did not look great tonight.
No, it didn't look good at all. I mean, you can clearly see that the next step for Jabari's development is strength. Like it needs to be #1 on his agenda this offseason. He's made strides in so many parts of his game and getting better as a jump shooter and a mid-range shooter and shooting over the top. We've loved his progress, but strength has been a consistent issue with Jabari Smith this season, and he's just not able to hold up against stronger forwards down low. And that's a real issue because we need that type of physicality from someone on this Rockets roster other than Alperen Sengun, because Alperen Sengun is physical and strong, but not enough for him to anchor the defense in the way that we would need as a team defense. So we need Jabari to also be a very strong physical presence in there, because collectively I think they could do a really good job together if they both were physically imposing. So we just need Jabari to get in that weight room. But right now he still has his young man body, and he hasn't gotten it grown into his man body yet. But overall, I have liked the toughness that Jabari has added over the course of this season. And I thought he was really good from the mid-range this game, especially at the top of the fourth quarter, where he kind of was our offensive option in this game. And the Rockets made a nice little run and got it within, around 6 or 7 points, I believe. I can't remember exactly. But a lot of that was off the heels of Jabari making good, tough shots in the mid-range. Now, he kind of went cold late, but other players did as well. But I really liked how he bounced back offensively and the confidence that he's playing with. But yeah, defensively, I think him and Sengun had some real trouble tonight.
For Sengun, it was so weird, because I feel like first half Sengun was just at times not locked in, not paying attention defensively. He had the really egregious mistake against on that one inbounds play with 1.2 seconds left to go late in the first half or late in the second quarter. With Brook Lopez, the inbounds happens. Alp falls asleep, or he's caught watching Giannis curl hard to the rim, and it completely loses Brook Lopez, and they just toss the ball in, and Brook Lopez gets a wide open 3-pointer. But then Alp was sensational defensively in that third quarter. It was like a night and day difference. I don't know what Ime said to him at halftime, but that is the version of Alperen Sengun that we need to be able to see from the moment the game starts, not once the game's halfway over.
Yeah, consistency. We have to remember that these are still very young players, and consistency is going to be key for them. And right now, I think that's what we're seeing with Alperen Sengun, especially over the past couple games. That the excellence in defense that we have been seeing through largely the first 15 games have kind of been waning on and off throughout the course of each individual game since. And so it's going to be very important that Sengun continues to pay attention to detail, continue to trust his principles, and be locked in on that end so we can be in these games and still play through them. And I also thought Sengun was very good offensively. He picked his spots very well. He's still working. He's still struggling with that 3-point jump shot, and that's what teams are giving up. And I think once he gets that down, I think that would have been a huge help for us if he could make that top of the key 3-pointer.
It's so tough because it really felt like I thought this Rockets team, Madison, was honestly kind of tailor-made to beat this Bucks team, because when you look at how the Bucks like to play defense, right? The Bucks give up the mid-range shot, right? They drop Brook Lopez all the way back to the rim. They run you off the 3-point line. Guess what? The Rockets aren't a great 3-point shooting team. They oftentimes settle or even go for a lot of those mid-range shots, a lot of those shots, further out in the paint, those 5 to 8 range, 5 to 8 foot, floaters, long twos, all that. That's exactly what this Rockets team is built to do. Jabari loves the mid-range. Dillon will hit some middies. Alp loves his little push shot. Jalen Green's got his floater. Jabari from the mid-range. And that's why it felt like the Rockets were in this game, because the Bucks didn't alter their defensive game plan, and the Rockets are like, hey, we take these shots. We're cool with this. Keep giving them to us. And so they were right there with the Bucks offensively, like step for step for the majority of this game. I will say one other note for Alp. I loved his defense on Giannis. And I know we're going to talk about Ime Udoka and some of the lineups and scheme decisions that he made going into this game. But I really thought that, they probably should have attempted to play Sengun more straight up one-on-one with Giannis, because I really felt like the few possessions where we saw Sengun checking Giannis, he bodied him, right? He was physical with him, forced him into some tough misses, and it kind of felt like every other player that guarded Giannis struggled. whether it was Dillon on a switch, whether it was Jabari straight up, Jae'Sean Tate when he was checking in off the bench, Tari got straight up like cooked a couple times just because Giannis's first step is ridiculous. The Rockets threw a bunch of different defenders at Giannis, and I really do feel like the guy who played him straight up one-on-one the best was actually Sengun. So credit to him for that defensive turnaround after some mistakes there in the first half. A much better second half for Sengun defensively. And another guy who had a kind of a quietly really solid game that honestly, Madison, I thought the Rockets didn't do a good enough job of getting the ball to was actually Jalen Green. Jalen Green in this one, 16 points on 6 of 11 shooting. He had 7 dimes, no turnovers in his 29 minutes. And what was really weird is like Jalen had it going. He was hitting some big shots. He had a really good stretch there in the second quarter. And they never really like went back to him as like the hot hand. And he sat for a really long time in this game. Like I think he hit the bench in the third quarter at like the 5-minute mark and then didn't come back in until like 5 minutes left to go in the fourth. He sat for like over 10 minutes of game time. Yeah.
So this is the issue I've had with some of the hard coaching from Ime Udoka.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's focus on Jalen's game first. The lineup stuff is just kind of weird from Ime in this game. I want to spend
we'll talk
a little time talking.
Yeah. So overall, Jalen's game was this is tailor-made for Jalen's game because they're in deep drop and Jalen kills deep drop every single time. Also a part of this deep drop, he ran a lot of pick and roll with Sengun, way more than he typically does, and their connection popped like it did last year. You could see them; they were getting easy buckets, and also Jalen was finding shooters. Jalen was he was excellent at making the right pass all night, as well as finding his own shot with the floaters in the lane. I mean, I thought he picked his spots excellently, and that's the type of development you want to see. Those are the type of things that we wanted Jalen to improve. It didn't seem like he had predetermined if he'd shoot or pass, right? He was doing what Ime Udoka had talked about. He was reading and taking what the defense gave him. Now, I think a lot of the reads were a lot easier for him because there was so much space with the deep drop that was being played. But I thought Jalen made consistent, great play the entire game. Really, the first quarter, he was a little shaky. But from the second quarter on, I thought Jalen was really good. And that's why I'd say I was really disappointed in the Rockets not recognizing that and trying to cultivate it in this game and rewarding their young players for playing well. We talked about it with Jabari Smith a couple games ago where we thought he earned the right to close a game instead of Jeff Green and did not. I think some of that is what I'm talking about right now is I'd like to see when Jalen is on for him to get those opportunities and those reps to continue to build on that and also build some confidence because yes, this is about winning, but this is also about development because let's be frank, Fred VanVleet is not the future of this team. You know what I mean? Like him running the offense is not the overall future of this team. He's a
stopgap, right? He's
exactly.
a piece to bridge to the future.
Exactly. And that bridge is there to bridge when you need him. And when your guys are playing and are doing well, he can kind of scale back a little bit of his usage and let them continue to work on their game when they have it going on. So that's what I'd say about that. I thought Jalen had an excellent game, but he just kind of faded in the fourth quarter, not really due to him, but just due to how the offense ran.
And that's has to do with coaching, right? Coaching, Ime had to, needed to recognize, hey, Jalen's having a strong game. Let's go back to, this thing that is consistently working, especially when the offense did kind of dry up there at certain points there in the fourth quarter. Some questionable decisions from the Rockets coaching staff from Ime Udoka in this one, running certain lineups. Again, the keeping Jalen and Sengun on the bench for a little bit too long. We're going to unpack that as well as get into some of the egregious officiating from this game with both Ime Udoka and Dillon Brooks getting tossed at the very end of this one. That's all coming up here in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use and there's a wide range of betting options including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. You can go take a look at the outright favorites for Super Bowl 58 and bet on that. You could bet on the Houston Texans as they are making their push towards the playoffs to wrap up this season. The different odds are limitless. Just go check them out over at FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started this NFL season. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Final thoughts from the Rockets' 128-119 loss against the Milwaukee Bucks. And Madison, this was, we kind of, we've alluded to it a couple times so far in this episode. This was a weird one from like a rotation perspective. It really kind of felt like, to me, Ime went with a little too much Jae'Sean Tate and Aaron Holiday in this game. Aaron Holiday just did not have it offensively in this one. Wasn't hitting shot. He had like that floater, like didn't even draw iron. Like it was straight off backboard.
I thought he wasn't good defensively either tonight.
Well, not a great game from him. And not a great night from Jae'Sean Tate. He had a couple like, hustle plays, the Jae'Sean Tate-esque type plays, but it was one of those games where with the way that the Bucks defend, you need floor spacers out there to open up the middle of the floor, because if you have a guy like Jae'Sean Tate who is going to be a non-shooter out there, there was a point where you had Jae'Sean Tate out there, Al P out there, like it just kind of mucked things up offensively to where I thought that it kind of exacerbated already a weird offensive game plan where the Rockets were having to take what the defense was giving them. And I don't know, they just didn't have it. And you had guys, in the starting lineup that were playing well. So I don't know why Ime like rode that bench lineup as long as he did there from that point in the third quarter where he started resting the starters all the way till late in the fourth quarter when he finally brought the starters back. It was a bit of a weird decision from him.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird decision. And I'm not the only thing that I can think of that may have influenced that decision is maybe he wanted bigger guys out there for rebounding, like bigger guards or bigger wings out there for more rebounding help, because we were having trouble with the offensive rebounding. But honestly, it just, to me, it didn't pass the eye test out there. I thought it was honestly a shame to see Jalen have such a promising first half and then in the game with just 29 minutes of play. I thought he should at least have gotten 34 to 36 minutes tonight. Like, these are the games we want to cultivate, like I talked about in the first segment, as well as Alperen Sengun, right? And just the way the Rockets are running offense lately, it's a lot of hunting mismatches. And I do think that is effective offense and great offense, but sometimes I don't think they give it to when their young players are on. They don't hunt the mismatches for their young guys, right? Like I don't see them running plays to get matches for Jalen or Sengun. They have to happen naturally, and a lot of times you see them a mismatch with Dillon Brooks, and it's almost like they draw them up, for him to get and which I like, and I think they are timely things you do to keep a defense honest. I just would like those to be also more tailored to the guys that are supposed to be the future of this team, because although we are focused on winning and when we love that the Rockets are winning right now, the future of this team also matters. So we have to also make sure we're cultivating, especially when our young guys are having good games. And Ime needs to remember that, yes, winning this game is important, but when your young guys are actively helping you win, you need to give them that chance to win those games as well. You need to trust in them when they're playing well. So that's what I would say about these lineup decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I do want to say I think that the Jabari actually got an early foul trouble guarding Giannis too, which should have been the pretty early sign from Ime. We're like, okay, 2 quick fouls on Jabari in the first 4 minutes. Maybe I can't let him guard Giannis, straight up one-on-one. And then again, it wound up being just like a rotating door of who was guarding Giannis, right? One possession is Jabari, the next it's Dillon, the next it's Tari, the next is Jeff Green, the next is Jae'Sean Tate. Like basically everybody got a crack at guarding Giannis, including Alperen Sengun, who I thought really was the best one. But I think that foul trouble on Jabari actually kind of showed Ime something, which was Jabari had to then come back in and play at the top of the second quarter, which he's done before, but he didn't play. That's the top of the second quarter. He was playing with this weird lineup where it was, I believe, Aaron Holiday, Jae'Sean Tate, Tari, Eason, Jabari Smith Jr, and Jeff Green. So it's kind of like a weird, like jumbo size lineup with like 4 forwards out there and then like Aaron Holiday. And I get usually those minutes have belonged to at times Fred VanVleet, at the top of the second quarter, or sometimes it's Jalen Green at the top of the second quarter. So neither of those guards out there. Fred played a quick 11 minutes there in the first quarter, so a bit longer than his usual run in the first frame. But in those lineups at the top of the second and then again at the top of the fourth quarter, they did lean into Jabari as an offensive weapon in the mid-range. And I thought that was a nice way to, hey, we know that we're going to get mid-range shots. We know that the Bucks are going to concede these shots. We know that you can hit those shots. Let's go to you. And Jabari was 6 of 9 from inside the three-point arc. So, and pretty much every single one of those were middies, I believe. I don't think he had any shots right at the rim, which, Madison, what do we say when somebody shoots 6 of 9 from the floor?
Nice.
There we go. He's up to speed now, guys. We got him right. We got him good here on the podcast. All right, look. So I liked what Jabari did offensively in this game. And again, for Jalen and for Sengun, I would have liked to see more of them together, more of their two-man game in this one. We know that Fred has a thing for playing against the Bucks. Historically, he's been really good against this Bucks team, and he was really good again in this game. But it felt like Fred also had to work really hard for some of the shots that he took. And one of the benefits of running more offense through Jalen Sengun and that two-man game is it lets Fred be a play finisher, right? It lets him spot up on the three-point line and just knock down an open shot when it's presented to him rather than have to generate everything himself offensively. And there were plenty of points in this game, Madison, where the Rockets offense generated some really high quality looks, right? They were moving the basketball really well. They were whipping it around the perimeter. I really thought they did a great job sharing the basketball at times. Everything they did offensively really was good enough to win them this game. It was kind of just, again, the offensive rebounds that they gave up, too many second chance points, and again, not having really any answer for slowing down Damian Lillard. Again, him finishing with 39 points. But this game got pretty chippy, Madison. Early on, Fred VanVleet took an inadvertent elbow from Brook Lopez as he was securing one of those 18 billion offensive rebounds that the Bucks got in this game. And Fred was on the floor for a while. It looked like he might be done for the night because he was on the floor holding his face, writhing in pain. And then eventually he rolls over to his back. He's sitting there. They cut to commercial break. He's fine. He's got a shiner on his eye, as Craig Ackerman put it. And so it's all good. They're all right, cool. Fred's fine. He's back in the game. Cool. He hits a couple shots and we're we're getting a big Fred game because he's pissed about getting hit in the face. And then later, because of course, right? Later on, Dillon Brooks drives to the hole. He's got this move. He does a kind of a semi-Euro step kind of move towards the basket, brings the ball over and around to his left arm to try to finish at the rim to make the layup. And he inadvertently hits Pat Connaughton with his elbow and knocks him out, right? Clocks him across the face. Very similar play to what happened earlier in the game. Inadvertent elbow to Fred VanVleet. Fred gets knocked out. No call, no whistle, no nothing, no attempt to review it. This one happens, and they go, and there's not a call on the floor for them to review. Nothing was whistled in real time. There was no offensive foul, none of that. It was just they went and reviewed the call after the fact, simply because of a reputation thing, because I guess it's because it's Dillon Brooks. This was, to have that happen in the exact same game, to have it happen, the hit on Fred early and then the Dillon Brooks call later where there wasn't even a call on the floor to be challenged or for the referees to go review to make sure they got right. They were just oh, well, somebody's on the floor in pain and Dillon Brooks was the one who caused it. Let's go look at the tape and figure out what happened and see if we need to assess, a flagrant foul to Dillon Brooks. And Ime Udoka was pissed about it when he talked about it post-game, straight up calling out the officiating.
Once he, I guess, laid there for a minute, he was okay. But, very similar to the call they called on Dillon. Fred got elbow too, and one goes one way, one goes the other.
Did you guys ask if that one would be reviewed as well?
The one Fred got hit with?
Elbow to Fred?
Yeah, they couldn't call it when I call a time, or you can't review it when I call a timeout. But I can see it from the opposite end, and 3 refs can't see it right there.
Okay, so Ime Udoka not being shy at all about calling out, I guess, the 3 blind mice who were officiating this game, Madison. Look, I don't like blaming the officials are not and I feel like I have to do this every time we want to call out the officiating, because you can call out bad officiating when it's bad officiating and have that not be like your primary reason for why the Rockets did not lose this game because of officiating. Hell no, far from it. They lost this game because they did not hustle on closing out defensive possession strong. They gave up way too many offensive rebounds, and they couldn't slow down Damian Lillard. Those are your primary reasons the Rockets lost this game. They probably should have won this game if you clean up one of those things. If Dame has like a regular non-superstar night, or if they clean up the offensive rebounds, we're probably talking about a win. Pick your poison there. Still, the insanity for this to happen, and then also, so that was one like situation, and then the end of the game, right? The Rockets are pressing, they force a turnover. Dillon Brooks gets a tip on a pass and is trying to recover the loose ball and gets shoved going out of bounds, clearly shoved. Referee, no call, no whistle, no nothing. In fact, actually in real time, I guess the referees tried to whistle Dillon Brooks for a flopping, like technical, and I guess he was protesting. I still think Dillon was probably protesting the fact that he didn't get the foul call in the first place. Yeah. But there were a couple of people on Twitter saying like, no, he was protesting the flopping call. Whatever he was protesting, Dillon Brooks is out there protesting because he thinks the officials are missing calls and gets ejected. He picks up a second technical. He gets ejected. Then Ime comes out and starts arguing with the officials. He gets ejected. I just hate that officials get so in their own head and that they're so ego driven that the moment you challenge their authority, it's nope, technical. You get out of my face, technical. Like it's the dumbest thing ever. The NBA has to find a way to clean this up, man.
Yeah, the NBA needs to take a real hard look at this. And for me, it's gotten worse this season, almost as if the NBA has mandated this to the referees that we're not having this, they want to send a message, almost like the beginning of the season when, there's always a certain call that they want to clean up every season, and you see it more often. To me, that this year, it's been technicals. It's been them reacting to the way that players react to horrible calls by them, because a player only reacts in that manner when they've been, when something bad has really happened, you know what I mean? With something that they honestly believe was not right, that was the wrong call, really happens. And to me, when I watched it, what it looked like was he was clearly pushed and fouled. And when Dillon Brooks said, hey man, that was a foul, he immediately got a tech. And it was like the audacity of you to miss this blatant call and then tech me for my response. It's just unbelievable. And I think at that point, Dillon got his second tech by just he was absolutely livid and lost it and began, saying all type of expletives to the referee.
I will say, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just and I love that Ime Udoka was all the same energy. Yep. Yes, we are.
We're on the same wavelength.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
No, for his guy.
You deserve it, and we're gonna talk
right?
that.
100%. He's there. He's like, no, you're gonna toss my guy out. Cool. Like, look, Ime knew the game was over at that point, and he was like, screw it. I can eat this money. I'll eat the fine. And then not only that, he took the technical fines. He went straight to the podium and called out the refs for not being able to see stuff. So that Ime's getting a fine in the mail tomorrow morning. NBA league office, whatever. And what the worst part is, we're gonna get the last 2-minute report tomorrow morning, Monday morning, whatever, and it's going to say, oh yeah, the referees missed a call, a blatant shove on Dillon Brooks, and it's like, oh, here's your, add some salt to the wound, right? And look, the game was probably over by that point, but it's the principle of the matter, right? Like the refs really missed some stupid stuff in this game. They let the game get chippy. They let the game get physical at times. You want to have the double standard of, okay, Fred VanVleet gets clocked in the face, and he's got literally he walked up to Bill Kennedy at one point and was pointing at his eye. He was like, you see this? Like, look at this. I got a black eye. And because y'all missed a call earlier and I got nothing for it, and now y'all want to come over here and try to call out Dillon Brooks for an inadvertent elbow on a drive? Like, tell Pat Connaughton not to play defense with his face, okay? That's number one.
The hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of that whole process was just unbelievable. I said, when I saw it happening, I was like, there's no way they could call this a flagrant foul or a foul on Dillon Brooks after in the exact same game, the Milwaukee Bucks got away with it. Yep. All teams want. All teams want is for a game to be called evenly.
Yes.
That's all they want. That's all. You hear it all the time. Like the way whatever's going on, the same calls that you give the other team, we get those same calls. It influences the flow of the game. And that type of hypocrisy that we just witnessed in this game, it's a red herring for the league, and they really need to clean it up.
I want your thoughts on this. So if you're watching, if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, go to the YouTube comments. Give us your thoughts on the officiating in this game in 5 words or less. That's the comment of the day or whatever. Go give us your thoughts on the officiating, 5 words or less on the officiating from this game, because it was honestly really frustrating at times. That's what I'll say. I'll give my PC version of it here on the show. But I will say, look, Madison, I feel like we've been a bit overly negative on this show. I don't know. We kind of called it how it was, but I want Rockets fans to leave here with a sense of like the Rockets were very much in this game, and they could have won this game, and they maybe honestly should have won this game the way that they played. Like, they played well enough. This was one of their better offensive performances of the season. They had 7 guys in double figures. Things were going well. You miss a few 50-50 balls. You lose out on some hustle plays. You don't make those extra effort plays like Giannis did on some of the offensive glass. Andre Jackson Jr., you're getting beat out for some of these loose balls. There was just some things that didn't break their way that they were in control of, right? You can control your effort. You can put forth a better effort to rebound the ball and close those defensive possessions strong, as well as some of those little mistakes that we highlighted throughout the episode. But I don't want Rockets fans to leave here with a sense of like, oh, well, the Rockets don't stack up with the Bucks or whatever. No, this was a tightly contested game, and the Rockets made the Bucks work for this win. They are getting better and better and better about their road performances, and the fact that they were right there on the precipice of being able to take care of the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee is encouraging. There was a lot of encouraging stuff from this game for them to build on. So nobody should leave this loss thinking, being incredibly frustrated. You can be frustrated about the loss, but the team is still there was a lot of good from this game. And I think we did a good job highlighting some of that throughout the episode, but I just wanted to make that point before we wrap things up here. Any final thoughts before we call it quits, Madison?
Not really. I just want to echo that sentiment that the Rockets actually played a really tough game. They played the Bucks very tough tonight, and I was actually proud of their performance in sticking with them and not letting that game get out of hand at any point. I thought that they played very well, so I just want to echo those sentiments.
Well, you know the drill, man. Let everyone know where to track you down at.
All right, find me at ManManLeaks on Twitter, man, or X. Love to talk ball.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.